Yes.
And there are some different ideas about
Yes.
the feed and basic.
Yes. Yes.
I would like to know what technique how technique defines the feed and basic.
And basic. Feed. Feed is by definition front-end engineering and design. It's all the effort that Technique will do to prepare the documentation for the execution of the contract. Feed is a front-end engineering, so you do all your first P&IDs, your initial studies, P&IDs, clarification of process. You do your first ASOP, you do your PDMS, you start your PDMS model, but of course you are anticipating all the work, you are preparing all the contractual documents to be ready for the execution.
So all of these are included in basic as well?
Yes. Yes, all of these are included in the basic, yes. So we will come back on this, but remember when you negotiate, when either you are client, either you are a contractor, you can think about what is my contracting strategy? What was my contracting strategy? Is my negotiation going to change my contracting strategy, or can I change, separate some contracts, or can I globalize the contract? You have to think about your strategy because it will guide also how you will handle a successful negotiation.
And it will affect the balance of power once more. So the power of negotiation.
So that's what I've just said. An advantage of to separate. What are the advantage? Full control of all phases.
Mm-hmm.
But disadvantage, many interface, so more control. Important management team from the client, and longer delay, probably longer delay to be approved by partners and authorities, because you have for each individual contract to go through an approval process, which is not the case when you are main contractor. EPCM contract, flexibility to project changes, closer visibility and project governance by the owner, and short-term also the global project schedule. We will speak a lot when we have a role-playing. I will give you some schedule, initial schedule and schedule after negotiation. You will see the importance to manage your key items, your long lead items, how to manage also shorter some duration, and to save time for construction, because the idea is to start first oil on time, on schedule, as delivery. So you want to save your schedule. It's always part of the negotiation. How does my decision impact my schedule? And how do is it acceptable for me? What time, on some items, some equipment, some major equipments, do I have some spare time? Do I have some to allocate transportation? This is part of the negotiation. This can save your planning.
An issue,
Sorry?
Planning is always an issue
Always.
for first
Always. Yeah.
Excuse me, in EPCM contract,
Yes.
who hires the construction contract? EPCM
It's-
contractor or owner?
It's for me, it's the owner. It's the owner who allocate the contract for construction, or if it's a main contractor, it can be the main contractor who allocate it. Very important here, the owner risk is mainly on the owner, because here the project price and schedule is a driver.
So the EPCM contractor is involved until the end of the contract?
Yes, but on the management, on the management, yes, on the management only.
EPC.
Yes, EPC. So EPC contracts, we have the advantage is we have a number of contracts which is limited. Owner risk is limited. Reduced interface between engineering, procurement, and fabrication. You remember these interfaces is very key. Again, I was part of the interface team within Shell and on Prelude project. It's a huge work every Monday morning, you review all the interfaces, the matrix of interfaces you have to manage, and you have to see what is my deadline, how can I solve this issue, what is the risk. And you have thousands of points to clear. Okay, so managing the interfaces is a real commitment. And of course, the idea is to reduce the interfaces. Disadvantages of EPC contracts. Yes, you limit the competition among contractors because you do EPC contracts. And you have also the problem is the possibility of large claims from contractors. This we will come back. We will make a claim exercise. This we have covered. More limited competition, limited flexibility. Yes. Yes. One point which is very important here is the number 3. Generally, an endorsement of the FEED results by the contractor is put in place to reduce above risk. For company, when the FEED is endorsed, it's a commitment. Huh? An endorsement is a commitment. So for company side, it reduces the risk because contractors are endorsed, so he's fully responsible. When it's always part of the negotiation, yes, Mr. Contractor, but you have endorsed the contract. Always come back.
How long does it take to endorse a FEED?
Good question. Normally, from what I've seen, it can be, it depends, I would say 1 to 2 months. Yes, 6 weeks, 8 weeks endorsement. You have a lot of, it's an intense phase because you have a lot of clarification in one go. If company doesn't, if you forget some clarification or if company doesn't want to hear about the clarification, it can be an issue. Huh? Because sometimes you are, I am the FEED contractor. You are the EPC contractor. I done a FEED that is not good, but you don't know it yet. You endorse it. All the responsibility is for you during these 2 months to say, yes, but my work was not so good. Mr. Company, the FEED contractor was, we have highlighted this point. Please clarify. And company will say, yes, you're right, or yes, or no, you're not. If I have done a good FEED, and that's sometimes why company also wants to find some good FEED contractors. Your work for endorsing the FEED will be minor, and it will smooth. So the interest of company, if this is company, I am FEED contractor, you are the EPC contractor. The importance of company is to have a good FEED, to minimize the transfer and to minimize the endorsement of the issues of clarification during this endorsement phase. So a good FEED contractor is essential. It's not so easy to find, but sometimes when company wants to have a FEED contractor, it's because they want to clarify something that are not clearly staged, to fine-tune the design, so it will be a reimbursable. FEED contractor will spend a lot of time clarifying the scope to reduce, to fine-tune, and to have a clear scope, to have a lump sum during the execution. So, okay, it's money invested for company, for the FEED, but you have a good FEED. And then the EPC is smooth. But you're right, huh? This 6 to 8 weeks or 2 months, 3 months time is critical. It's critical to understand what is going on what has been done during the FEED and what has not been done. And in addition to that, for Shell, for Prelude, I come back on Shell, Technip was the FEED contractor, Technip was the execution contractor. So Technip endorsed internally to Technip team. So it was smooth because the team knew each other. And for Shell it was confident because there is no lack of confidentiality. They know each other. So it's a smooth transfer. Does it answer your question?
Yeah. Another item that when you want to endorse the FEED, you just negotiate with one contractor, EPC contractor, or several EPC contractor to finalize your FEED. After that, go to the sign the contract with one of them? Because maybe some item changes
You're right.
during the
You're right.
endorsement,
Yes.
and some prices changes.
This is why it's important to have a selection of your future EPC contractor. It's part of the process also during the FEED to allocate or not some part of the contracts to some EPC contractor. But if it's a main EPC contractor, it has to be selected. And normally you have also this, the impact of the joint venture is to propose to company for the execution the best scenario. But you can have different joint venture proposed to company, different execution contractor.
Is there any third party to endorse the feed?
Is there, sorry?
Is there any third party?
Ah,
To
very
endorse the
important,
feed?
third party, yes, yes. Third party helps also to certify, to clarify the scope of work from a main contractor to company. It can be, I've seen Bureau Veritas, Det Norsk, Lloyds. It can be Rina Industrie for Italians. You have a lot of different third parties. But the third parties helps to, during the ASOP, they help giving some certification to the to the main contractor. It is important, and company has to pay for this third party. It's company who pays the third party.
Company or owner? The
Uh,
company is the owner and the
Yes,
contract.
company is the owner. The
So-
owner. It's a part of the contract.
So if
Or it's included in the price
Right.
of the main contractor to have a third party. Yes, Paul?
Yeah.
Excuse me, in the previous page, would you please bring to this page?
Sorry, previous.
Yes. In the first one, what is the plan performance criteria? How can we define it?
You are a company. You expect your production to be, you expect your contractor to deliver an installation that is upon a level of performance. Okay? This level of performance is, for example, I take an example, it's 98% performance. If your contractor delivers 97%, it's 1% difference below your expected performance of the plant. 1% multiplied by 180,000 barrels per day. Among 20 years, it's a lot of loss of production.
What is the criterion? How can we define this, for example?
In the basis of design. In the basis of design, you have the level of performance expected. So it's part.
Is it experience, is it formal, how can we define this?
In the basis of design. It's a document. The basis of design give you the level of performance that your suppliers will be expected to provide. An equipment has a level of performance, one equipment, but it can be the full plant.
Is for one, for example, rotary, for example, could not be changed, but for a whole construction, how can we define performance?
For an overall plant.
Yes.
For example, just on an FPSO, for example, when you treat the water, remove the water from the well, you treat the water and you put the water to the sea. You have a level of ppm per level of water. You cannot reject water with a level of oil too high. So just the water removal is a level of performance. You have to reject water at sea with a level of oil which is very minimal. Or it can be the chlorination unit. You need to remove all the bacteria, by injecting a chlorination unit. So you have a level of performance expected on your process. This is the process normally who defines the performance. Your flare analysis, you have different analysis. Your flare stack, for example, the level of heat on your top side is as per a level of performance of your facilities. If you have too high level of temperature, you cannot work, your structure is damaged. the integrity of your vessel is put at risk. So you have a lot of consequences. So you have to protect your equipment with a radiation shield that absorb a level of radiation. This is part of the performance you expect. So at each level of your facility, you have some levels of performance. But the global process, if it's an LNG process, it has to deliver 5.5 MTPA multiplied by 3 trains, so that's 15 MPTA. That's a level of performance.
Excuse me.
Yes?
In slide number 14. the next
Yes,
slide,
Leila?
You had written that the warranty period starts from ending the performance test.
Yes.
But if you have lots of equipment that they are installed in different times,
Yes.
and they have their own company, for example, you buy one from KSB, it doesn't guarantee the equipment from maybe 2 years after the installation of that equipment. This is the problem that we have in our contracts. We don't know
How to handle
when should
this?
we
Yes.
start the warranty period.
Yes, that's a very good question. This is why I put a variation between 18 months up to 24 months. It's not mandatory, but normally it starts from the provisional acceptance. Provisional acceptance means you have normally finalized all your commissioning work, okay, and the final acceptance is the period for which normally the contractor has no more responsibility. During this phase, the equipment has been installed. For example, we speak about a turbo generator. It has been provisionally accepted because its commission is start. If 6 months after you have an issue with this turbo generator which is running, company has the right to say, Mr. Contractor, we have an issue on this turbo generator. The cost of this repair will be yours. It is, and contractor is legally in charge to do that during this warranty period. If after the final acceptance, 2 months after the same equipment is failing, contractor is removed any responsibility. It is the responsibility is on the owner to provide the cost and the repair. So this warranty period is really critical, and I agree with you, Leila. It starts from normally the provisional acceptance of one equipment, even if another one is starting after. But it's per equipment. It's defined normally at the procurement stage. When does it start and for how long? And
I think I couldn't
Yes.
say what I want to ask. I'm asking that if this pre-commissioning commissioning
Startup.
takes, for example, 2 years,
yes,
and that equipment is installed at this time, and after 2 years, just the warranty period starts.
yes.
You mean that the one who had produced the equipment, I don't know.
The vendor.
The vendor warranty, it's
Still-
good
still-
for
still
4
valid.
years maybe, because 2 years it takes for commissioning and startup.
Yes,
And
but-
after that 2 years for the warranty period.
Yes.
Totally this warranty or guarantee period would be 4 years?
No, normally it's 2 years. It's 2 years warranty, and then after the 2 years, 2 years spare parts, for example. We speak about 2 years spare parts, means the vendor has to supply the spare part for 2 years during this period, and then the warranty is 24 months. That's 2 years. After this warranty period, the vendor has normally no more commitments, because it's the capex. The capex is on up to final acceptance for company, and then it's OPEX cost. So it's another type of cost. And if there is an issue, the owner has to pay for that, not the vendor, the owner after.
That means the commissioning is not included in the warranty period. The warranty starts when the acceptance is made. So the commissioning is before your acceptance. So it's not part of the warranty period.
This is the warranty for the general contractor that do the EPC.
Yes,
Asking for the warranty of each.
the specific equipment.
For each specific equipment. Yes.
Here we have this
Same.
problem in compression unit.
Yeah.
We install the compressor. After 2 years,
Yeah.
we commission it.
Yeah, yeah,
After 2
okay.
years,
And
okay.
after that period, we have some problem with
Problems.
the
Yeah.
compressors.
Yes, and the
But the
vendor,
vendor said that
So
no,
obviously
the
there was a
guarantee
claim.
is-
yes,
Yeah.
is over, is over. Ah,
If,
okay.
if this is not clearly specified in your contract or your purchase order, obviously you end up with a claim. But in theory, your warranty period starts when you accept the equipment. So when there is a formal acceptance of the equipment, that means after the commissioning. So you are telling me it depends on when the equipment is installed. So each time it's a specific case, but it must be defined in the contract and in the purchase order. And if it is not clearly defined in the contract or the purchase order, you have a claim at the end, because obviously you have a period where nobody knows if it is installed, accepted, or under operations. But in theory, acceptance starts the warranty period. We cannot be more specific because there are individual case for each individual equipment. But that's, in theory, that's where the warranty period starts.
And I agree with you. As long as you move from pre-commissioning, construction stage, commissioning, startup from company takes over the responsibility of startup. The risk on company is increasing on company side. Is increasing of what? Of having a vendor that is not fulfilling his commitment, but is liable against the law. He's liable against the law if it's within his warranty period. If it's out, then the risk is for the owner.
And in our different experiences, you, Pascal and me, projects are full of claims of such a type because the warranty period is never clearly defined, and it's very common claims at the end of projects.
So by final acceptance, the warranty is finished?
Sorry?
By final acceptance, the warranty period is finished?
Yes.
No.
Well,
Right here.
Final
After-
acceptance, yes.
after
yes,
final
yes.
acceptance,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Provision.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the end of the warranty period, yes.
Yes.
Where the vendor and contractors have no liability and responsibilities anymore.
Yes, and that's why
So that's the release
at
of the
this
bank
moment
warranty.
the owner risk is maximum.
Yeah.
Excuse me, this warranty period is the warranty period of the project.
Of the-
Because of the equipment.
But that's the debate. I mean, it depends. We are talking about general case. We are talking about project here. So that's,
The warranty of the project,
yes, yes,
the project of EPC.
Yeah.
EPC
yes,
contract.
yeah.
The EPC contractor is responsible for this period of
Yes.
provisional acceptance and final.
And final acceptance. But the question was
Of
about
layback.
individual equipment
Equipment.
within this period.
Within
What
this
about the
period.
individual equipment? The scheme is the same, but it depends on, once more, the clause of the purchase order code that can be different. All right?
So for large project, we call it mega project. Normally, we include also the startup assistance. Startup assistance means the contractor provides assistance to company for the startup phase. But assistance is only upon client supervision. So for onshore, it's a LNG project, gas project, and for offshore, it can be FPSOs by an EPC contractor and in consortium with a yard, for example.
What does FPSO
FPSO, floating production, storage, and offloading. Floating means all the oil is gathered. Production means you produce in the FPSO. Storage means you
You
store and
store
then
in the hull and
Yes.
offloading.
I have examples just after. Yes?
In the EPCC responsibility of the owner and company.
The test performance?
Test performance running the startup is the responsibility of the owner or the contractor.
Eh ben,
A performance test is upon the main contractor. Hein. The main contractor has to deliver the facility to company as per level of performance expected. Yes. Vas-y, continue.
je voulais retourner sur la table, mais ok, t'as
Ouais,
répondu.
ouais, move.
D'accord.
Hop, j'aimerais aller.
Turnkey contracts.
Okay, turnkey contracts. We have said it previously, huh? For your question about turnkey and the advantage. Limit the number of contracts. A main disadvantage is that you have. Possibility of large claim from contractor and less control about less limited competition among contractors and less control about the global impact of the price. So it
Sorry.
depends on the policy. Yes.
As a point of risk sharing in turnkey contract, who hold the risk? The contractor?
For where? Sorry.
In risk sharing.
Yes.
Who hold the risk? Contractor or client?
In turnkey contract.
Yes.
Depends on what aspect. Hein. It's comfortable turnkey contract for a main contractor because he has all the scope.
The risk of what? The risk of not starting
Doing the
the facilities?
Yes. It's turnkey.
Risks are always shared. I mean, if you give a turnkey contract to a contractor, and at the time of turning the key, the installation doesn't start, that's the risk you are mentioning. I mean, the contractor takes the risk of not being paid, obviously, but the company takes the risk of not being able to produce, and the company has commitments vis-à-vis the state where it operates. So the risks are always shared, but more you delegate risk. So the risk for the contractor is huge because he has taken the whole burden of
You mean that
the work.
turnkey contract is expensive one?
A turnkey contract is expensive one.
Expensive contract? Is it expensive? You have to
Alors
pay much?
we will see the different way of remuneration after, but is expensive. That means more you delegate the risk, more
You have to pay.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, you're
The
right.
principle is always the same.
Turnkey
Yes.
contract is a global contract. So main contractor often give
As-
a global price
Yeah.
that is comfortable and taking some.
The risk, in fact, the difficulty being the control of your cost in this contract.
Internally, yes.
That's more difficult.
Yes.
Regarding this advantage, not only for turnkey contracts, also for EPC contracts. If we get the approval of the contractor on bid, how much we in fact reduce the risk of claims from contractor side?
It's you're not reducing the claim from contractor side. Contractor manage its claims, company manage its claims on its sides, and you have steering committees when you face to face the claims upon the life of the project. What we did with Shell, I was Technip. Technip had for any claims management of claim structure, feeling the cost, knowing the reason why, doing this internally. Shell did exactly the same, and in steering committee they share. Oh, Mr. Shell, you increase the coal spillage protection among 20 square meters. It's we have made the material takeoff MTO. It's $11 million. Shell says no way. We're gonna pay $11 million. Yes, but if you don't put coal spillage protection, you put minus 165 degrees on the steel. It will make a brittlement, and you can have a rupture of the steel. So you face a technical issue that is major because you touch the integrity of the hull. So Shell will re-answer. It's an example. Okay, then what is the price? Can you make one product, coal spillage and fire protection, in one? Mr. Shell, it has never been done. Well, do it, qualify the product, and put it around my hull. And then Technip and Shell said, okay, I will handle this, but we will have to qualify this product. So we enter a qualification process during the execution. So we have a lot of consequences. So when you have a claim and when you have a discussion with company, this kind of claims preparation, it's the life of the project. You will face claim.
So some claims come from variations requested by owner.
Yes, requested by owner. Yes.
Yeah. Apart from that.
Yes.
Mhm.
When we get the approval of the contractor on the feed,
Yes.
we
Yes.
reduce the ambiguities in fact.
Yes.
And we expect less impact claim from
I,
contractors
I
during the
think,
project.
I think
Yes,
we
yes.
can answer yes to your question. That means when the EPC or turnkey contractor endorses the fee, we can reply yes, it limits the risk of claims because they are fully aware of the fit and they have agreed, endorsed, therefore agreed, so it's supposed to reduce the risk of the claims. After, the reality is another story, but in theory, yes. Yes, that's true.
So just to give you a design competition example, when this is an FPSO, Ahmed, this is an FPSO, and you have 3 design competition
blue
about yes, design competition means you propose different designs. So on the first proposal, on the left, you have 3 jumpers with water gas lines, production piping pipe, and 3 different lines. So here, you individualize the lines, and you have 3 different lines. Okay, it's one solution. The good thing is that you have a buoyancy, but it multiplies the interface at the FPSO stage, you see? So the weight on the FPSO is quite high. Proposal number 2, they gather all the lines and they make a pipe production line up to the FPSO using flexible catenary, so it minimizes the interface, but it's one single line. And on the third one, you have 3 lines, a riser tower plus a buoyancy tank and the jumpers up to the FPSO, which gives some stability. So, company has to decide. This is Girasol. So what company said is, okay, we go for proposal number 3. Why? Because we have more flexibility in terms of riser. The weight is taken part of the buoyancy tank, part of the FPSO, and we minimize the number of interfaces. So we end up with solution number 3. But you can see it's not so obvious. The competition can be tough. The proposal has to be substantiated technically. It's a lot of discussion. And it's not so easy.
Yeah, that's an example where the company leaves the competition open, but not only on the technical scope, but on the design. So that can bring to the company technologies it does not know. And so that's a mix in this call for tender, in this competition, that's a mix of technicals and prices. And the contractor is invited to propose technical solutions. So it's a different approach where company does not give a precise scope of work or technical book to the contractor saying, okay, you quote on these and these. So it's a type of competition which is much more open and technically which can make the project progress by the contractor expertise. Yes?
If there's any compensation from client to contractors who participate in competition?
They can be.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, for
That
example,
can be.
you do a feed,
Yes.
or you do
Yeah,
a
that
basic,
can
and
be,
you do
yes.
a basic.
Yes, yes.
How we compensate your efforts
Yes.
on doing the feed
Yes.
or doing basic?
Yeah, yes. It
But
happens.
it's compensated on hours time spent generally.
Okay.
But
Yes.
it can be. It's not systematic, but it can be, yes.
The idea here is to enhance the competition, to have the best proposal. And if you inject money, each company inject money, so it can be Total, which gather, or NIOC gather some little competitors. You end up, what you want is to the best solution. So you put money for all of them. It's small time, it's tough competition, but the benefit out of it is really of high value, because you end up with a proposal that really fits your needs and have some technical advantage, long term also. So it's for the benefit of company.
It can be a huge tool to progress technically and technology.
And all your negotiation can be on the technical aspects, as well as on the cost, or the time delivery, or the complexity of fabrication of the various pools. You see that on proposal number 2. The anchor bolts, the vertical weight of the line is very huge, so you have a risk on the floater. So here, by putting jumpers, they reduce the loads, and therefore the integrity of the structure of the storage is much safer. Okay, so this kind of arguments that gives to your negotiation a lot of value. It's a leverage effect also.
Excuse me.
Yes.
You say the word value. I remember the word value engineering. What's the position of the value engineering in a project?
What's the position of the value engineering on the project? You mean the position? You mean the
Which phase of the project?
Conceptual study.
The
During the conceptual, very beginning. Yes. On ERA project for ExxonMobil, we did a design competition with Saipem for subsea facilities. It was a tough discussion also on the best solution to optimize. Company wants some proposal number 1, number 2, number 3. The idea is to open the game and to fine tune with the best solution. So okay, it's time spending, it's some money, but it's like a brainstorming to provide clients with the best option. It has some value.
Is it good option that we disclose the design to all the contractor to find one best design, and or we conduct a value engineering session to find the solution?
No, normally the solution it's presented individually. Okay.
And not disclosed to others.
Yes. So it can.
Contractor A may not want that his solution is known by contractor B.
Yes.
So it's always confidential.
However, you can have during clarification of endorsement, during the beginning of the execution, you can have clarification about many different contractors that supply the proposal, and therefore you have the clarification are open to all of them. Okay. Unless one specific contractor says, I don't want my solution to be known, please keep it under specific disclosure agreement. So there you negotiate and you don't give the data. But it's a sensitive subject. It's a touchy project. So this is why Ali, this notion of endorsement that you have highlighted a few minutes ago is a key point, because you realize that you have feed is under the responsibility of the owner unless feed endorsement is performed. When it's performed, the contractor has to implement this clarification at the earlier stage during tendering phase. To shorten the project double schedule, it may be decided that endorsement will be performed at the start of the EPC phase. This opens the possibility to design discussion, change order at the project start. So it's sensible. Huh? It's sensible because you have good relation at the beginning of the project, and now you start with some clarification. So it can have some impact on the relationship. Huh?
Also here
it's a risk.
The field endorsement should be done during the tendering phase.
It can
before
it can be, but it happens most of the time. I've seen it after contract award during the beginning of the EPC phase, and it's true that the tension is increasing.
Yeah.
So if you start by 10 change orders, it's difficult. Huh?
Sir, have you practiced the feed endorsement in your projects that's been done in the during the tendering phase? Because somehow the tendering phase duration is, I think,
Prolonged.
short to endorse the fee.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
somehow it's difficult for the contractors to do the endorsement.
Yes.
Have you practiced before?
Most of my experience was during EPC, clarification of feed during EPC, at the beginning of EPC phase. On ENI, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, most of the time you face some situation where at the beginning of the contract it creates a lot of tension, but for company it's easier because contractor has endorsed. So even if there is clarification, it come back to company through change orders, unfortunately, or some. But you want to take this endorsement as really a moment, a clarification moment where you put some contractor wants to put some confidential on the process, on the safety factors, on some things that from his point of view have to be clarified, because otherwise you will increase your thickness of steel. It will have an impact on your quantities. It will have a huge impact on cost and man hours. So the earlier you clarify, the better. I suggest we make a short break. Yes? It's okay?
Half an hour break.
We make a break, yes?
Half an hour is
If you
not
want to
short.
break, that's time to break.
No, half an hour is not short, yes. You're right.
Let's make a break. Simply.
J'ai déjà plus de voix.
Bon. Oui, c'est toi qui parles le plus, hein, c'est sûr. Mais
We have to discuss the type of remuneration mode for your contract. So most of the time in our business, in our oil and gas business, we see three main current type of contracts. Remuneration type of contract is the first one being the lump sum. This you can negotiate lump sums. The good thing is that you can propose a lump sum when you have a clear definition of the work, when you know where you're going. A good feed has been done, good preparation, so clear definition of the scope. You know where you're going. You can fix the price. Fix the price. The constraint is not on company side; it's on contractor. So that's more an advantage for company side. And contractor takes the responsibility. The inconvenience is that for long tendering period, before contract award, there is a rigidity possibly leading to confrontational attitudes between owner and contractors. Why? Because lump sum is quite a concern. So the longer the tendering period is, the less flexibility the contractor has. So it can be a source of a conflict.
this very often opens to claims because a project is never fixed. Of course, there is the feed, but we know that there is always modifications, and the lump sum is always subject to claim, or very often subject to claims.
Exactly. Whereas a reimbursable, you can put some company can put some incentives, yes or no, and a target price or an open book estimate. Open book estimate, the advantage is that contractor open the book, shows to company, demonstrate to company all the costs that he has figured out up to the final contract award, and that for the EPC it will be the basis, the open book estimate will be the basis of the cost control process during the